Start with a dream and share it with some friends. The idea deepens and grows. The dream takes shape, it has form and substance. A community soon arose. A listening room, a hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room. Express yourself and have your say. The walls are thin, sirens blare. The tables sit near folding chairs. The stage is set with paint and glue, and love went into every screw. The light shine bright on every star. They come to play from near and far. The light shine bright on every star. They come to play from near and far. A listening room, the hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room. Express yourself and have your say. You guys doing tonight?
Doing real well.
Doing great.
Okay, well, we'll be talking more in a few minutes. First, I wanted to tell you about the Hearing Room. We have events every night of the week, but let me tell you what they are. There is Tuesday open mic. That's 7 to 10 p.m. It's a typical kind of open mic where you get about 2 songs each, and you come down and you perform your stuff to a very appreciative and listening audience. And then we have Let's Have Words on Wednesday. Let's Have Words is our spoken word open mic, and that's a lot of fun as well. Then we have the Singin' Jam. The Singin' Jam is with Mark Allio, and we put up words and chords on the screen. Everybody plays together, and then he throws guitar solos out there to whoever wants them. So if you want to hear the version of Freebird that's even longer, you can come to the Singin' Jam and hear lots of solos. So you can also participate in them. You know, if you want to imitate the original, you can try to do that too. There's lots of things to do at Singin' Jam. And then on Fridays, we have 2 events that are monthly. There is the Celtic Jam. That's the first Friday of the month. And the third Friday is the Bluegrass Jam. And then we have other events on Friday nights. Then we have Saturday night as well, different kinds of events, but we have a couple monthly ones. The Mind Meld sometimes, or Film Night sometimes happens on a Saturday. And then we have the Performance Lab, which is always interesting. It's electronic. People come with all these weird things, and you can come hear that and participate. I don't know a lot about electronic music, but if you want to or you do know about it, that's the place to go. So Performance Lab, you should look at the website at hearingroom.net to check that out. And then on Sunday, we have a long day of music that's lots of fun. 12:30 to 1:30 is a drum circle. So if you have the urge to beat on something or other, you can come do that at the drum circle. And then on at 2 to 5 p.m., we have the open mic that I run. And the open mic is in a circle. We play one song each. We keep going around. And then there's a feature sometimes, and sometimes we just keep going around. So that's a lot of fun as well. And I want to thank the Greenville Junction Shop for their support of the podcast and the Hearing Room. The Greenville Junction Shop is in Greenville, New Hampshire, and in Clinton, Mass. They are repurposed items they sell. The items are upcycled, so you can find things that were once owned and loved by someone else and refurbished to the point where you can now use them again. Could be furniture, could be household appliances, could be electronics. All kinds of possibilities arise. And you can find them on Facebook, and they have a Facebook page with Marketplace often, so you can actually buy things direct on Marketplace. It's very easy to do. and you can contact them that way at Greenville, that's Greenville, Junction, as in junk, JUNKDION, Shoppe, SHOPPE. So the Greenville Junction Shoppe. That's what you can look for on Facebook. And that's about it for the intro. So, Dan and Faith, how are you guys tonight?
Doing well. Just drove down from southwestern New Hampshire and through a little bit of rain, but that's all right.
And it was rain and not snow, which is what we're expecting later tonight. So,
well, let's not talk about that.
Yeah. That's that four-letter word.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we will. We'll hope that it's a mild snow and that no accidents happen and the roads are clear. Mm-hmm. Let's just hope for that. And I don't really want to shovel my car in the morning, but, I guess we'll have to. It's that time of year again.
Yeah.
It is.
So, you guys have been playing for a while together. And first of all, how long have you been married?
As of 2 days ago?
Sure, as of 2 days ago.
34 years.
Yep.
34 years.
Yep. Saturday the 16th was our 34th wedding anniversary, and we spent it in an open mic, which we like to do. And there's an open mic on our anniversary. Doesn't everybody spend their anniversary at an open mic?
Of course.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And it turned out we knew a bunch of people there, so it was great.
Yep.
And we met a little over 37 years ago. So
yeah.
Wow.
Quite an adventure, doing lots of stuff together over the years. And,
so 37.
Yeah.
37 years ago we met.
Yeah, summer of 82.
Yeah, so how did you meet?
We both went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute.
And we both that summer signed up as freshman orientation advisors for the incoming freshman class.
So they have upperclassmen do this, and the students show up in the summer for a couple days with their parents. We separate the parents and the kids, and there's advisors with each to give each some history of the college and explain what the school year will be like and so forth. And we kept getting paired up at assignments at an info table the first day
and giving
various
tours
other things.
And somehow we ended up staying paired all these years.
Wow. And so somebody secretly was doing it. They're like, I want to fix up these two. And
there were several couples that formed that week.
And I think at least two of us couples are still together.
I think three, because John and Mary.
Oh, true.
Yep. Know of a few others. They're still together.
Yeah.
So, it was a good time. A lot of good friends. Folks were still really good friends from back then.
Oh, that's exciting. It's interesting how you just kind of run into people and it becomes your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's
pretty much
fate. So, where are you from, Dan, first of all?
I'm originally from New York City. Was born in Queens. We moved to the Berkshires of Western Mass when I was 4. Moved to Manhattan when I was 12. So I've lived in the country, I've lived in the city, and I can't remember a time when I wasn't singing. From the youngest ages, I was always in choruses and such. In New York City, I sang in the Manhattan chorus. It was a borough-wide chorus, and then later in the all-city chorus, and then was invited into the concert choir, which was a subset of the big chorus. And we sang for every visiting diplomat in New York. It was kind of, it was a really neat adventure, and still, there's another place I'm still friends with a bunch of the folks I sang with then. So I did a lot of music, not instrumental stuff. It was all choral, but we were singing 8-part harmony and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
yep. And I'm not a city girl at all. I grew up in about 6 miles outside of Cooperstown, New York, in rural farmland. But I also, from the moment I could talk, I was singing, because my family is a singing family. My father and my brothers were in the church choir up until Dad got honked off at the church and stopped going. My grandmother was a singer, and my sister is a singer, and we're all singers.
And it helps the Faith's grandparents, Welsh, on father's side.
And the Welsh are into, multi-part harmony, so I grew up with harmony. And I could not tell you the melody lines for most of the songs of the 60s and 70s, but I can sing you a mean harmony line for just about all of them. Yeah.
Well, it's whatever you practice. So.
Yep.
So you guys grew up kind of close to each other. And,
same state.
Yeah, about 3.5 hours apart.
Yeah. Same state, but different planets for the most part. Cause
downstate and upstate New York are not. They don't see eye to eye.
And upstate is very red, downstate is very blue. It's very weird.
My parents are actually in Syracuse, so I get to spend a fair bit of time down there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going there this weekend too. So,
nice.
So you guys met at Rensselaer. Were you both doing computers, or what were you working on?
Well, I started out as a biology major, but I was programming computers from the age of 12. And my mom was a cancer researcher, and she'd only ever seen people use computers to process her data. So she encouraged me to go into biology, which I did, and also lots of computer stuff, and eventually figured out that computers were where I wanted to be. So I've had a long career doing software development, network security, network designs, all kinds of different things.
And I started as a math major because that's what I was happy with coming out of college, and then I discovered, coming out of high school, then I discovered what the college level mathematics courses were, and decided that I really wasn't interested in the theoretical side of things. There was one particular class called math analysis, and the joke on campus was that math analysis was all about given 0 and 1, prove the universe, and that was just not fun. So
didn't help matters that one of our friends was in all of Faith's classes.
Oh yes, Brian kept wrecking all the curves.
He's now a professor of mathematics out at New Mexico Tech. He wrecked every curve for every class that he was in.
And brilliant guy, does research that I don't even have the vocabulary to understand what it is that he does, but he does it really well. And after a while, I decided that the only way I was going to stay on the practical side of mathematics was to get involved with computers, and so I started taking computer classes, and then I met this guy, and he dragged me over to the dark side. I have not regret, and it was so funny because I called my parents to tell them that I was changing my major from mathematics to computer science. And my mother was horrified. What can you do with a computer science degree?
What can you do with a math degree?
Look at all of the things you can do with a math degree. And I'm thinking to myself,
you can go teach mathematics.
Or I could be an actuary, which I had no interest in doing.
You could be an accountant.
Yeah.
My dad was an accountant. I knew I didn't want to do that. Yeah. I love my dad dearly, but I subbed for him for 6 weeks while he went in for heart surgery, and I ran payroll for all of his clients, and I decided after doing that I wanted nothing to do with any of that.
Hedge fund manager.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot happier with the computers.
So we've both spent a career in doing tech work, and we got away from the music for a while after college, or actually during college.
There was no time to do music in college.
But found our way back through songwriting, and that's in part that happened because of my dad. When he passed away, I was trying to figure out what I was doing, and decided I needed to do some writing, and it turned out to be songwriting. He was a great lover of music. He didn't play, but he was listening to jazz before most folks knew what jazz was, and we'd go out to clubs, but he always had records from lots of people, when we lived in the Berkshires, he knew lots of the locals. Like this guy with long hair who lives a couple towns over from one town over from our summer place, and a couple towns over from where we used to live up there. This guy named Arlo, who just is one of the locals, and Arlo would come into the hardware store where my dad worked and need advice, and so they knew each other.
I ran into Arlo at the general store in Beckett one day and trying to figure out who this guy was that looked so familiar. And maybe he'll know who I am, and I'm staring at him, hoping that, he'll see me and say, "Hey, Faith, how you doing?" And, of course, he didn't know me from a hole in the wall, and it wasn't until we were halfway back up to the cabin before I realized the reason he didn't know who I was is because he was Arlo Guthrie.
Right.
My dad, on the way into the store, had said,
"Hi, Arlo," and I missed that. So.
So he knew.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he knew.
Yep.
I don't know if Arlo still remembered my dad by that point because it's been so many years later.
But Mike certainly remembered him.
Yeah. But, my dad passed away, and I started writing songs. And there have been a lot of songs that mention him or were directly for him. And it's been part of my journey of healing from that.
So did you not write songs before that?
I didn't.
Not even poetry.
Yeah, I really was not doing any writing until that point, and just started trying to figure out what I was doing and started writing. And I took a songwriting class with Pete and Maura Kennedy on using lucid dreaming and meditation as inspiration for songwriting. I had no expectations, and 2 weeks in I had my first song. And 3 weeks in, I had more and started figuring out how to play them on guitar and just worked at things from there. And Faith started picking up some different instruments at that point.
And thankfully the Kennedys repeated that class because he decided he wanted to do all the things that we've done all these years have always been together, but he just felt like he needed to do that himself. And on the inside, I was thinking to myself, doggone it, that looked like it would be fun. But I knew that he needed an outlet, and I said absolutely. And I was so grateful when they did a second round of the class.
Right.
It was a blast.
Well, actually, the Kennedys are going to be here at the Hearing Room in April.
Are they really?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Either March. I think it's April. I think it's end of March.
Nice.
Last week in March. So
see if we're back by then.
Yeah,
you could come. They're doing a workshop and then a show.
Yes.
So
that's pretty typical for them.
Yeah.
So Faith, you were working at a company that sort of got off the ground and became something bigger.
Well, I had actually been working for Dan for 2 years after having gotten laid off right as the economy tanked in 2008, and that kept food on the table for a couple of years. And then I got an email from a couple of guys that I used to work with a few years back and said, your name came up the other day and we should talk. And I got together, had for coffee with those guys, and they told me that they were working for this little startup, and they were looking for someone to do to help them design in supportability capabilities, and someday to be part of their support organization. And they said, we don't have anything to support yet, but you can at least help us design that part.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really odd going in and interviewing here because they were in such super secret stealth mode that they could not tell me what it was they were doing until I accepted the job offer.
And signed the non-disclosure.
Yeah. They wouldn't even let me sign a non-disclosure before accepting the job. It was bizarre. But I knew these guys. I knew they knew me well enough not to get me in over my head. And I figured if they were involved, it was going to be cool.
Yeah.
And I was right. And that was... at the end of this month, it'll be 9 years.
Yeah.
And
the little company got eaten.
Yeah, and I was employee number 24.
Mm-hmm.
And we had high hopes of going public, and we believed we were on that path. And then back in 2017, we were assimilated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the two of us were actually in Florida on tour.
Yeah, and pulled into a friend's driveway and was checking email real quick before we went in, and that was when I got the news that we had been bought out by a multinational organization, which thankfully they bought us because they were interested in the product and the people who developed it.
Oh, good.
And they are putting a ton of support behind our product. And
they're making a fortune off of it.
They're making a fortune off the product, hopefully.
So.
And they're treating us really well, so I can't complain. And they're supporting my instrument habit.
Yeah.
and you can always go back and work for Dan if you.
And
if you need to.
That may happen at some point.
We're contemplating, what it would mean for me to retire, and I've been working with a financial planner about, timing on that. And one of the thoughts is that we keep his company, and the two of us go back to working together, because we managed not to kill each other the first time around.
Well, after 37 years, I would hope you figured that out.
Well,
for the most part.
There are days where it's,
So we travel around the country in a camper van, and we're both able to do our day job work from wherever we are, which is great. And friends of ours who also tour musically and do some work from the road as well gave us advice when we bought our van. And there were a few different things. One of the pieces of advice was, it's perfectly okay when you've been on the road for several weeks to say, honey, why don't you go take a walk?
Especially our van is, to give folks an idea visually, it's a bit smaller than a FedEx van.
It's about 21 feet long, and it's 6 feet 8 wide.
And after you've been in there for a couple of weeks together, honey, why don't you go for a walk?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Our winter trip took us south through D.C. and Atlanta and the Gulf Coast and Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, California, and back up through the Rockies and such. And
that was 10 weeks on the road
10 weeks
together.
on the road, 9,500 miles. And there's occasions when going for a walk's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's we need food. We'll park at the supermarket, and I just go spend 45 minutes strolling the aisles of the supermarket for inspiration of what I want to cook. So, that works.
It sounds good. And you guys, you have a really fancy van, though. It's got like...
it's got a bed and a bathroom and a shower and a kitchen.
A stove and a microwave and a fridge and a dinette.
Yep.
All in 21 feet.
Yeah, little Winnebago Travato.
Yeah.
We love that thing.
And you guys, you had a custom made, right?
Nope.
No.
This is a standard item, and actually am one of the administrators of a Facebook group for this particular van type, and we have about 9,000 people in the group.
It was 150 when we joined it in 2015.
I was the first person that the originator asked if I would take on some administrative roles. But
we have like 8 administrators now?
Yeah. And we just about keep up. But it's fun. We meet up with the van crowd in different places around the country. In Phoenix, on our winter trip in Phoenix, we had 110 of these vans together at a gathering. We played some music, and I did some tech talks on a couple subjects. And the van crowd has become another avenue for our music, which has been great. They like our music, and we enjoy sharing it with them.
And they love Dan because he knows how to fix all the systems in the vans. And he's
I had to
talked many
figure out
people
all
through
these
things.
intricate aspects of the vans and
How to drain the water system in the fall and restart it in the spring, and how to run the heat.
I'll get panicked phone calls on occasion. Mostly it's emails and messages saying, "Help! I'm having a problem with this." And it's like, all right, settle down a little bit, take a couple pictures, show me what you got, and I'll walk people through and solve their problem for them. Most things are solvable.
Wow, it's like van tech support.
Yeah, it pretty much is. So.
And that's the beauty of this Facebook group is that
at this point there's enough people who are good enough at it that I lay back and let other people answer much of the time, and I'll just jump in and correct things if there's advice that's a little off. But if somebody asks me a question directly, I'll certainly jump in.
Yeah. So you were talking about Dan. You were talking about your father earlier, and you wrote a song for him.
I've written a lot of songs for him, but there's one new one that we'd love to share with you. One of the ones on the previous album actually had clarinet on it, which was specifically for him because of his love of jazz. Mm-hmm. We had Billy Novick play on some songs, but this one is called Quiet Moments, and this is on our new CD that just came out. The new CD is Then and Now, and we get Faith plugged in here on the mandolin.
Yep.
And let Aaron get the levels to a nice point.
Seems good.
All right.
All right.
All right. Yep.
We used to talk by telephone every couple days. A quick hello to tell me about places on the way. But that was then, this is now. Don't know where you are. The internet. Wrong lyric. Start over.
Okay.
We used to talk by telephone every couple days. A quick hello to tell me about places on the way. But that was then, this is now. Don't know where you are. The telephone doesn't reach that far. We used to go for walks along the old dirt road. Autumn leaves changing from green to red and gold. But that was then, this is now. Just driving your old car. Think the roads go that far. I miss your voice, miss your touch, miss the smiles that we shared. I miss the way you listened, always seemed to care. Through the years I've realized those quiet times alone. That's what it meant to come back home. We used to chat by email in your later days. You'd tell me about treatments and the price you had to pay. But that was then, this is now. You're just a distant star. And the internet doesn't reach that far. Precious times remembered, quiet. Life is a journey, but it isn't always fair. Everywhere I ramble, every song I sing reminds me of those days and simple things. I miss your voice, miss your touch, miss the smiles that we shared. I miss the way you listened, always seemed to care. Through the years I've realized those quiet times alone. That's what it meant to come back home. We used to talk by telephone every couple days. I think I'm a little tired. Sorry about that. Dropped a couple lyrics.
Yeah, get the idea.
Yep.
And you put that on, is that on your last album?
It's on the very new one.
The new one.
Just came out called Then and Now. And the title loosely comes from that song.
From the song, yeah.
So the new CD is Then and Now. It's available at danandfaith.com and various other places. It's on, apparently it's on iTunes already because we had somebody tell us the other day that they had bought a copy.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Online, so.
And today is
Yeah, today he would have been 87 today.
Yeah.
He's been gone for 13 years, 14 years now.
Yeah,
Yeah, because he was 73.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, yep.
I got to tell you, when my dad heard that, because he heard you when he visited, he was tearing up during that song.
I played it for Nick Noble. We played it for Nick Noble a couple of days after Nick's dad passed away.
Yeah.
Nick's a DJ in Worcester, and
Nick loses it every time.
every time he hears that song.
But he loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick was actually on this show too.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was telling us.
He was telling us about it. He had a good time doing
He
it.
says hello, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's he's a great guy.
He is.
Yeah, he's a
sweetheart.
huge supporter of our music. We were on the air with him this past Thursday. Part of why I'm a little tired is we've been bouncing back and forth between Massachusetts and New Hampshire a lot in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But we did a show. One of our last album, Seeking, had a song, Driving with Friends.
Right.
And on Driving with Friends, the song is from a trip across Maine to get to Canada, to New Brunswick. And the song is basically from a Name That Tune session that we had in the car.
With the iPod.
With the iPod on shuffle with Friends albums. And so we did an hour-long show with Nick where we played our song, Driving with Friends, and then played all of the songs referenced by that song and worked our way through all of that. And then he played Driving with Friends again at the end, which was a lot of fun. It was kind of a nice closing of a circle for that song.
You know, that's a good song to do for the podcast because either I have had some of those people on or will.
Oh, true.
We should do that one.
I might have to stand up for that.
I gotta grab the bass.
I mean, part of what I'm doing on this podcast is trying to give people the opportunity who are local to the Boston area and to New England a way of getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And so I think your song's a good example of that. It's a way to get to know other musicians because you go to the open mics and you don't always get to find out much about the people.
Yeah.
You just hear their music. All right. Well, so this is Driving with Friends?
Driving with Friends.
Okay.
I'll pull the lyrics up just in case. Give him my forgetfulness today. Ready?
I think so.
Just another drive, long boring road, headed out to play for some lost souls. Late at night, static on the radio, no stations here and miles left to go. But the iPod's loaded with the music of our friends, playing songs we love as we drive round the bend. Though we'll miss you when we're far from home, when we hear your songs we're really not alone. There's Dancy singing about a costume ball,
A sad one from McLean, names on a wall.
there's Perry with her damn happy song. And when Kim sings, we sing along, 'cause the iPod's loaded with the music of our friends, playing songs we love as we drive round the bend. Though we'll miss you when we're far from home, when we hear your songs we're really not alone. Chuck sings of broken fences and shattered dreams.
Beth sings about a town she's never seen.
Rich gets lucky 'cause he's a physicist. He is, you know.
And Bob's bad mangoes, they're on the list.
Lori sings about a picture of her dad.
Peg reminds us growing old ain't bad.
Stuart sings of romance no longer there. And Carolyn and Bo have their bus affair, 'cause the iPod's loaded with. There's bigger stars out there, we know it's true. Our friends are the ones to see us through. So as we're out there racking up the miles, we've got our friends along to make us smile, 'cause the iPod's loaded with the music of our friends, playing songs we love as we drive round the bend. Though we'll miss you when we're far from home, when we hear your songs we're really not alone, 'cause the iPod's loaded with the music of our friends. So the chorus on that and the instrumental bit was actually a little tribute to the Kennedys, because there's a particular chord progression that I used that's something that they used a lot. And on our album Seeking, where we recorded that song, Pete Kennedy came in the studio with a Stratocaster and played an electric lead for that song, which when I wrote the song years before, I kind of wrote that chorus and that instrumental stretch with the intention that someday Pete would play an instrumental over that, and it happened.
Yeah. So that's great.
And yeah, we mentioned lots of our friends, Dan Cloutier and John McClain, Perry Desmond Davies, Kim Jennings, Chuck Williams, Beth DeSambri, Rich Eilbert, Bob Katz, who's from New York, Mango Man, Laurie Diamond, Peg Espinola, Stuart Ferguson, and Carolyn Waters and Bo Wiener in the last one.
That's great.
It's a lot of fun.
I think definitely a few of those people are going to be on. Cool. Beth DeSambri actually has been on already.
Cool.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
So Beth sings about a town she's never seen. The town is Crawfordsville, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
When she was writing the song, she told me that we were at a workshop or something together, and she said, I'm writing this song about Crawfordsville, Indiana. I looked at her and said, I've been there. She said, tell me about it. And the tidbit that I gave her was they published the Bible there. R.R. Donnelly and Sons is there, and the biggest publisher of the Bible in the world. And she used that in a very biting way in the lyrics of her song.
Yeah, the lyric goes, and it's all about a woman feeling very out of place in her town. And the lyric goes, this town made its revenue publishing Bibles. You'd think that they'd know about love.
It's like a great line.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Beth has done some great stuff. She performed on the show like she was a second guest, I think.
Nice.
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, she fills in for us. We do a monthly songwriter showcase down at Serendipity Cafe in Maynard. Second Wednesday of every month.
Yeah.
And when we're out on the road, Beth is our guest host. And when Beth is also out on the road, Dan Tappan is our guest host. So coming up in December, we have the three of us. The three hosts. The three hosts are all doing the show.
So you have Dan and Faith, Beth, and Dan.
Wow.
Will be the show. So
that'll be fun.
We did this, I think, once before.
We've had Beth on before.
I know we've had Dan in before too. I'm not sure if we've had all of us together, but it'll be fun. It's one of the challenges with being out on the road playing music is we don't get to hear our friends play very often, and where Beth guest hosts for us, we almost never get to hear her. So it's a fun way to reconnect.
Yep.
Yeah. So you travel a lot, though. About how much do you tour during the year?
We figure about a third of the time we're on the road.
We're somewhere.
So.
And on the road could just be right here in New England, or it could be much further afield.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll just be down in Massachusetts or out to Cape Cod or up to Maine or something locally, but it might be a week on the road with a few different gigs and people to visit. And other times we head off further. We were just out in Berea, Kentucky, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Grand Rapids, Michigan in October. It added several thousand miles to the van, and got to see parts of the country we've never seen.
And that one was fun. Earlier this year, we had Dan had a conference out in Buffalo that we'd gone out to, and I introduced him to Niagara Falls on the American side.
I'd never seen the falls in my life.
Oh, yeah?
So we went out there to see the falls.
Yeah, and then on the way back from this trip, coming back from Grand Rapids, we looked at a map and realized that if we cut across Canada, not only would it make the trip back shorter, but it would also allow us to see the Canadian side, which he had also never seen, and it happens to be... And, my apologies to my fellow Americans, but I happen to think the Canadian side is way better than the American side.
We got there at about 5 p.m., and the sun was shining.
It was just getting near sunset.
Just getting near sunset, and the mist rising from Horseshoe Falls. There was a permanent double rainbow from that mist.
Right.
It was just right there. And it's like,
Dan had his cameras.
And I had the camera, so I got some nice pictures of that. And
because he also does fine art photography.
So
and some beautiful stuff.
It's fun to go to the falls in the winter sometimes and see the ice.
I've only ever done that once as a kid, and I so want to do that again because
you should.
It is Mother Nature's ice sculpture. It is the most amazing thing. I want to go back.
So, just an aside, there's a ship that sunk right near the falls.
I was going to mention the same. It's like it was just in the news. This barge, these guys were on this barge that broke loose of a tug and got hung up in the rocks above the falls. They got rescued, and 100 years passed. And in a storm a few weeks ago, it moved.
Oh, wow.
It hadn't moved in 100 years. And it's now closer to the falls. It got hung up on another rock, and it might stay there for another 100 years, or it might go over.
Yeah.
And if it goes over, I wonder what that's going to be like.
Well, hopefully the Maid of the Mist is not at the bottom at the time. I always found it fascinating as a kid to learn how much of the falls gets worn away every year. It is a not insignificant amount of rock and
the
stuff
amount of water going over.
It's insane, and you get a serious feel for the grandeur of Mother Nature standing by the falls.
Well, there's a huge hydro setup on both sides with taking water from above the falls and releasing it below and generating a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's that power station right at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised, though, that you didn't go there before because you're both from New York. It's not like it's far.
It's a long way from New York City.
Well, but it's from, you were from upstate.
Yeah,
so.
and I had actually been a number of times as a kid. And love it, and which is why
grandmother lived in Buffalo long ago, so that was part of the connection.
And when
there.
I was a kid, she used to spend her summers in Fort Erie, which is just on the other side of the border from there. And a couple of times we would go over to Niagara Falls just to see it, and that was when I learned about the Canadian side and how amazing it was.
Yeah.
And I was spoiled for the American side after that.
Also, the Canadian side is sort of like Disneyland. It's
it's pretty
it's got
built
all
up.
This stuff.
Yeah,
now.
it's casinos and.
Though we stayed down right along the falls. We missed all of the hoo-ha up the hill.
Because they have like a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, and they have
and
quite
things. Frankly, these days the American side's not much better. So it's very touristy.
Both sides are really a tourist trap. And just even to get to the falls from either side, you basically have to walk through a visitor center, which has all of the trinkets and whatnot.
Right.
Yep.
So
see, there's a place for you to do a gig right in front of the falls. You should see
we
if
would
you can
get
get
drowned out.
Bring an amplifier for that.
Yeah,
bring a big one.
That's where you need the Marshall stacks for the folk music.
Right.
It's the only time you need the Marshall stacks for the folk music.
You guys want to do one more, and then I'll do my short break.
Yeah, which one
why don't you pick up the dulcimer?
Okay.
And we'll do Ramblin' Round. So.
Can I swap here?
Yeah.
I spent some time when I was younger hanging out at a house in Beacon, New York with this folk singer and his wife, this guy named Pete Seeger and his wife, Toshi. Yeah. And
Toshi's the one who taught Dan how to cook. It's awesome.
Yeah. Toshi was an amazing cook, an amazing gardener, and an amazing organizer. If it weren't for her, you would never have heard of Pete.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was the driving force behind all of the business stuff.
That's not falling.
It is, but
it'll be all right.
Yeah, there it goes. At any rate, so I always liked Pete's ability to get an audience singing. And so I've written a few songs specifically with that in mind, and one of the ones on the new album is called Ramblin' Round, and it's a lot about what we've been doing this year, traveling around the country and seeing the sights and meeting people and
all right.
Sounds
and
right.
For those of your listeners who are wondering what the heck this thing is, I just picked up my Appalachian Mountain Dulcimer, and mine is a 4-string variety, and it's something you don't hear every day.
Yeah, I have one of those too. I acquired. It's nice. It's a fun instrument.
It is a very fun instrument, and I love the sound of it. So I've been writing more songs that really need dulcimer on them.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
Ramblin' round, Ramblin' round this old world, ramblin' round, ramblin' round this old world. Been to the east, been to the west, been to the north, been to the south, been rambling this whole world round. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Been to the mountains, been to the plains, been to the desert, seen floods and rain, been rambling this whole world round. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Been to the ocean and dove right in, lived in a city, never will again, been rambling this whole world round. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Been singing songs and making friends, been telling stories now and then, been rambling this whole world round. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world. Rambling round this old world, rambling round, rambling round, rambling round this old world, been rambling round this old world. Thank you.
So we're listening to Dan and Faith, Ramblin' Round, and I'm going to take a minute here to just talk for a moment about the Hearing Room again. And the Hearing Room is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we always need help to support us because this is a place for musicians to come, to perform, to meet each other, to really have a community of music going in the area. And in order to do that, we need to pay the bills. And the bills are sometimes not easy to make. Depends on the month. But we could use some help with that. And that's how we've decided to try and do that, is through memberships. And if you want to be a member, you pay $100 a year, and that gets you access to the Hearing Room for $5 off for all events. And in addition, just so you know, the regular events are actually only $5 anyway. So that's like getting in free. So that's a good deal. You get a T-shirt, you get a membership card. Lots of cool stuff come with being a Hearing Room member. So you should check that out at hearingroom.net. And also, we want to thank the Greenville Junction Shop, because they are supporters of the podcast and the Hearing Room. Greenville Junction Shop is located in Greenville, New Hampshire, and Clinton, Massachusetts. They upcycle items from all over, from estate sales, from garage sales, from, wherever they can find them. Sometimes it's auctions. they have secret ways that they find all this stuff and then they refurbish it for you. So you can go to Facebook and look them up. Greenville, that's Greenville, Junction Shop, Junktion, Shoppe, Shoppe. So Greenville Junction Shop can be found on Facebook. They sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, so it's really easy to find out what they have available. So check out the Greenville Junction Shop. They will have a website eventually. Right now it's Facebook, so check that out. And we thank them for their support. By the way, if you want to clean out your garage or whatever, they do that too. So you can go ask them for some help if you're really at your wit's end, which I have been before. So I totally would avail myself of those services. Luckily, I already did that. So
and I assume that if you should ever be interested in anything like a jukebox, that they might know where to find one of those.
Right, actually,
or several.
Mark Hebert is really into jukeboxes, and he works on them and sells them. The Greenfield Junction Shop can offer you some kinds of jukeboxes of various types from old days. Yeah. So they're either CD jukeboxes, or he even has some that play 45s.
Ooh,
cool.
So you can get really old stuff. Have you noticed, Dana and Faith, that if you go to a bar now, the jukebox is totally electronic.
Yeah, it's all digital.
It's all digital, and not only that, they have this like tier system now where you put in your money and it'll play the song in order, you'd think, right? But if you put in extra money, yours gets boosted.
Oh.
And you can actually
cool.
kick up the list so that
I much prefer the old-fashioned ones. And actually, if you come to the hearing room, there is an awesome jukebox here that is full of the CDs of the folks who have played here at the hearing room, which I think is just cool. The coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, I think Seeking is in there right now.
Yes,
Seeking is in there,
Yeah.
and we just brought a copy of Then and Now that hopefully Mark will see fit to add in there.
Yeah, we should definitely swap that out. Yeah, because we've had Seeking in there, and got to get the new stuff. So anyway, since we're at a stopping point, I think we should start again with music, and you guys should play something. What do you think?
Thinking of?
Well, either 68 was a possibility.
Ooh.
Since we talked about New York a bunch, didn't talk about the Berkshires much.
True.
Could do that.
Yeah. Let me grab the bass.
You grab the
All
bass.
right.
I put a few capos on the guitar.
So Faith's bass is really interesting. So what type is that, Faith?
This is a Tacoma Thunder Chief. It is the largest, or was, I don't know if it still is, but at one point it was the largest acoustic bass guitar made. And I think somewhere on our website we probably have a picture of me with it. But she's huge, but it's basically it looks like one of those mariachi band big guitar sorts of things. What have I done to my strap here? There we go. Got myself all twisted up. All right, now we're hooked in.
So 1968, I was living in Dalton, Massachusetts, in the Berkshires. And the song is set there at that time. It was a time of turmoil in the country, riots in the streets, an election year, a war was raging, and the space race. So this is 1968. The song is just 68. Small town life, Berkshire Hills, the world outside my windowsill, a quiet life, young and carefree, just school and books, afternoon TV. All that changed. In 68, the world got smaller, filled with hate. Shots rang out in Memphis town. Martin Luther King dead on the ground. Heard my mother moan, my daddy weep. Me, I cried myself to sleep. Could there ever be peace again? The world outside came crashing in. Big signs on each front lawn. The battle lines were clearly drawn. Shots rang out, West Coast Hotel. Bobby Kennedy was dead as well. The TV, it was black and white. Watched it from afternoon till night. Saturdays we'd watch cartoons, but there were body counts on the evening news. It was long ago, but like yesterday. Innocence was swept away. The images seared in my brain. A world of fear and pain. December 1968. Apollo 8 blasted into space. George Low sent him round the moon. Earthrise image filled the room. Heard my parents cried, I did too. Finally, some happy news. A year of pain, a year of hate. Apollo 8 saved 68. It was Christmas Day, and a telegram from a stranger read, Apollo 8 saved 68. True stories. So there's some footnotes we usually follow that song with.
Okay.
Apollo 8 was not supposed to go to the moon. It was supposed to go low Earth orbit and test the lunar module, but the lunar module was about 6 months behind schedule. So they went to this fellow, George Low, and said, what do we do? And he said, send 8 to the moon. They didn't know if the rocket motor would relight to bring them home. He had to take that risk at some point.
He was deputy director for human space flight at NASA. He was brought in after the Apollo 1 accident to figure out what did they need to change to make it, safer and all of that. And they brought him in, and he went through every system top to bottom and talked to every person top to bottom and made a lot of changes.
He's the one who made the program happen. So George Low was a student at Rensselaer Polytech, and after Apollo was over, he became president of RPI.
Oh yeah,
and he was
we
president
got to know him.
when we were there.
So,
and
so one of the things I like to do in songs that I write is tell stories about people who might otherwise be forgotten. And George Low was this really important figure in the history of U.S. space flight, and very few people know who he is. Because he was he wanted to be in the background, just making sure everything worked.
Right.
Supposedly, this being the 50th anniversary of
this past year
of Apollo 8, there's actually a book coming out about George, and we're looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah,
because
it's supposed to be out sometime this year, and I have to go look to see if it's out yet.
Yeah.
But, I had sent a copy of that song to George's nephew, who actually went to school with Faith in Cooperstown.
A couple of years behind me in high school.
And the big signs on each front lawn. Do you remember what they said?
Yeah.
Nixon's the one. It's a campaign of slogans and no substance.
Yeah.
And the telegram at the end, Dan knew about a telegram received.
Was received from Frank Borman, and it said, "You saved 1968," because that image of the Earth rising above the moon. Everybody on the planet stopped and looked at that and said, "Oh, that little thing out there, that's us." There were 3 humans not in that picture.
And one of the other fascinating things, while we were out on our trip early this year, we went to the Johnson Space Center in Houston and did a behind the scenes tour, which is I highly recommend it. Talk
amazing.
about a bucket list thing. But our tour guide, one of the things that he mentioned,
I told him about the song,
and he mentioned that it wasn't a telegram. It was hundreds of
and
telegrams
well.
and letters thanking.
And basically all said the same thing. You saved 1968.
Yeah.
In a year of just awful news after awful news, that one shining moment. So I was a 6-year-old kid watching TV after school when they cut in, and I can still see the images of the coverage, especially of the Bobby Kennedy assassination.
Right.
And that's seared in my brain.
Yeah. And I'm a year younger than him. I do not remember any of that.
Well,
my first memory was Dad plunking me down in front of the TV and saying, "You need to watch this. This is important." And I got to watch Neil Armstrong take the first step on the moon. And I was young enough that I didn't know that was a miracle. I was like, "Yeah, okay, there's a guy walking in what looks like a lot of dust." So,
yeah.
And years later, I finally understood how important that was, and I am so grateful to my dad to have done that for me.
Well, I was born in 1969, so I missed all that.
You missed
it all. Yep.
At the end, I was born after the moon.
So. Yeah.
Well,
and now today we have spaceships landing on their tails,
just like
on
in the cartoons,
boats in the ocean.
Yeah,
like the cartoons from the 1950s, and the stuff that's happening now is just amazing.
Well, George Jetson had the flying cars, but I don't know. The Tesla is getting close.
It
the Tesla is a
feels
pretty
like that.
amazing thing. You get out on the highway, you tap the lever a couple times, and it drives.
And it drives for you. That's our latest toy.
Yeah.
When we're not driving around in the van, when we're closer to home, we have a Tesla.
We have the Tesla. We almost brought the Tesla tonight, but we figured we might need to stay over if we get snowed out of the house. So.
Yeah.
And it's not quite as comfortable sleeping in the Tesla.
You have a plow for the driveway up?
We have a guy who does that.
Oh, yeah.
So our guy who mows the lawn and plows the driveway, his name is Charlie Brown.
Okay.
And he's the local rock drummer up there. And he's a phenomenal drummer.
Rock drummer.
And a really nice guy, and does a great job on the lawn and a great job on the driveway.
Yeah.
So...
Well, you guys have an interesting house because you have outfitted it with solar panels.
We do.
Well, just one really, really large.
Well,
yes.
They have this massive tracking array that wakes up in the morning, orients itself to where the sun's going to rise, tilts toward the sun, and is square onto the sun all day, and it tilts and rotates as the sun moves across the sky. And so on a sunny day, it puts out full power from the time the sun comes up until the time the sun goes down, and powers much of the house.
Are you off-grid completely?
No,
Yeah.
We're tied to the grid, so we sell excess power to the grid. At some point, we might add a battery system as well, but right now it's that. And actually, during the day when it's sunny, when the car needs charging, I set the car up to charge. The car can charge at about twice the rate that what the solar panels can put out, but I can dial that back a little bit and just let it charge all day. So if we've been out on a trip with the car, we come home, we plug it in, tell it to start at like 9 in the morning.
And Mother Nature charges it for us.
And all day, the power from the sun is coming through the wires and into the car, and we're not selling the power back to the grid. We're just filling up the car.
Wow.
It's driving on sunshine.
Yep.
Well, Walking on Sunshine's good too, but that's a different song.
Might have to write a Driving on Sunshine song
Oh, there
at
you
some
go.
point.
Yeah.
So, and also you guys are vegan.
We are.
We are.
So why did you do that?
Well, we went vegetarian originally. And for some reason I was doing the cooking in these days, and I don't know how that happened because he's a way better cook than I am. But I had read somewhere that the calories with meat stayed with you longer than the calories from vegetables. Mm-hmm. And the two of us were at numbers on the bathroom scale that neither one of us wants to see again. And so I just stopped putting meat in what I was cooking. And, everything else was the same, but I stopped putting in meat. And Dan came to me at one point and he said, I just realized I haven't had meat in like 6 months. And I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh. And he said, I haven't missed it. So at that point, we sort of officially went vegetarian, but we were still eating, eggs and dairy and things like that. And then he had a regular checkup, and all of the numbers and stuff came back perfectly normal, or better than normal, except his triglycerides. And he asked his doctor what would do that, and his doctor said, well, let's see, cream cheese, cottage cheese. Started listing off all the dairy that we'd replaced the meat with.
Right.
It's like, okay,
I can take a
time to
hint.
get rid of that. And the interesting discovery when we dropped the dairy was that I'm massively lactose intolerant, and stomach problems I had all my life disappeared. And it's like, oh, so like I need to do this.
Yeah.
This is workable.
And I used to be able to cheat, and where good chocolate was involved, I would, good baked goods and stuff, I would cheat a little bit. I can't even cheat anymore because I am now lactose intolerant because my body has stopped making those enzymes. It doesn't use them enough.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we.
The reality is that most of the world, people can't actually have dairy as adults.
It's actually a mutation.
It's a mutation
that
in
people
Northern
can.
Europe. Yeah. So
And
it's
we've
kinda
been
interesting.
vegan 25
More than that. This
plus
point, I don't
years
know.
at this point.
A lot of
Back
years.
when nobody even vegan was those folks from the planet Vega.
Yeah. We had to just like start over figuring out how to cook, and we've developed a lot of our own recipes, and we have a set of recipes that we use at home a lot, and we have different ones we use in the van. We have meals that are very specific for when we're traveling that work well with a 2-burner stove or our limited resources on the road.
And I find if we try to make those dishes at home, I have trouble making them because things are not where they need to be for
you're not
that
in a van.
dish.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun.
Of course, that leads me to your next song, which should be the vegan comfort food.
We can do that.
Yeah.
All right.
So, ready?
Yep.
Rock Hale salad, steamed collards too. That's what we vegans call comfort food. Black beans served, top brown rice. Jalapeno peppers make it taste so nice. For us, it's nature's very best.
And chocolate.
Fresh baked bread from whole grains. Salad greens still damp from the rain. Mushrooms broiled from the grill. Fresh basil from the windowsill. For us, it's nature's very best.
And chocolate.
You can have your sugar-laden treats if that's what you really want to eat. There's always something fresh and new in the land of vegan comfort food. Carrots and parsnips all in a stew. Add in turnips, sweet potatoes too. Serve with a salad and asparagus. Nobody starves when they eat with us. For us, it's nature's very best. And chocolate. You can have your sugar-laden treats if that's what you really want to eat. There's always something fresh and new in the land of vegan comfort food. Eating local from the farm, it's healthier and it does less harm. It's rich food with lots of zest. For us, it's nature's very best, like fresh fruit smoothies.
Corn on the cob.
Fresh pig tomatoes.
And rich, dark
chocolate. That was just fun.
Yeah, that one's a love song for me.
Yeah. Well, I like the sort of repetition of "and chocolate." I think that's
so
great.
do I.
Yeah, and chocolate.
So we got email from our friends Friction Farm. They were out on tour. They were on their way home, and Aiden's driving and asks Christine, "What do we have for snacks?" And she lists off nuts and
chips and
so forth.
And chocolate. So she had to email us to tell us that. It was awesome.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Made our day.
Yep.
It's her version of driving with friends.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we invariably, if we do that song, I'll have people coming up to me for hours afterwards going, and chocolate.
Yeah.
The worst things.
It sticks in your head.
It's a
totally.
fun one.
Yeah.
So, okay, now I'm going to ask you, what's your newest song? Do you have one that you didn't put on the album that you just wrote?
Oh, yeah.
I have several.
And you got to dig the banjo out for that.
Yeah,
All right.
The banjo to do a song that's newer than the album. I think there's probably a few guitar ones too that are newer, but the banjo's been getting a lot of activity in my songwriting. Which one do you want to do?
Probably the newer of the two. So
Dig a Hole?
Dig a Hole.
Yeah, so...
And
Well, the
you're
lyric is I need
totally
the-
off the microphone at the
I
moment.
know.
But
I need the verse entries, so...
I know.
There it is.
This one, the starting riff on it was born in the lot outside of the service shop at Winnebago Industries in Forest City, Iowa. While we're
On our way back from out west, we stopped there to have a few things done on the van, and I went walking around one evening with the banjo, just strolling around because I had this. I had a prompt of Black Hole to write a song to. We can talk about prompts at some point, but so I had this prompt of Black Hole, and in the news was they had just gotten the first picture of a black hole,
which is why we're pretty sure that's why the
but
prompt
I
happened.
didn't want to go there, so I was walking around and I came up. So I came up with that little riff, and that became the chorus of this. And this is called "Dig a Hole," and it's an easy sing along. Which so two tie-ins to Pete Seeger. It's an easy sing along, and it's banjo.
All right, I'll try to sing along.
Yeah. You'll pick it up pretty easily. I'll just open with the instrumental and go into a verse.
Yeah.
Boss man says dig a hole in the ground, deep black hole in the ground. He stays up while we go down, deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground, deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground. There's coal in that deep dark ground, coal in that deep dark ground. Way down in that deep dark mine, deep black hole in the ground. Danger's never far behind,
Deep black hole in the ground.
dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground, deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground. There's coal in that deep dark ground, coal in that deep dark ground. Foreman says gotta organize, deep black hole in the ground. Go on strike for someone dies,
Deep black hole in the ground.
dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground, deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground. There's coal in that deep dark ground, coal in that deep dark ground. Walk that picket line, have your say, deep black hole in the ground. Live to see another day, deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground, deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground. There's coal in that deep dark ground, coal in that deep dark ground. No more coal until we win, deep black hole in the ground. Till that day we won't go in that deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground, deep black hole in the ground. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole in the ground. There's coal in that deep dark ground, coal in that deep dark ground.
newest song we have
thing
that's
we've been
in
performing.
rotation. Yeah.
And there's, I'll put the banjo down here. So there was a story in the news that just got resolved within the last month. Some miners down in Kentucky got locked out of a mine and weren't paid. So they had worked, like the last 2 weeks, they didn't get paid for. And
Actually, they got paychecks, but the paychecks
Oh, that's
bounced.
right. They did give them paychecks. The paychecks bounced, and they went after the coal company and said, we don't have any money. And then they got word that the management was loading a train with coal. And the miners, who were not union, but certainly are getting to understand why they should be in a union, went and camped out on the railroad tracks. And they wouldn't let the train leave.
And the CSX engineers, our union, were totally on board with them doing this, and so they stopped the train and held it there.
And they eventually, the engineers took the train engines, left the coal train.
Yeah, they went to talk to the miners, and they said, we're totally on board with what you're doing. We're perfectly happy to leave the coal here, but we kind of need the engines. If we decouple them and leave the coal cars here, can we have the engines back? And the miners said absolutely. So they took off with the engines, and the I think it was like four carloads of coal.
It was more than that. It was a long train, and just last month, they finally paid the miners for the wages that they were owed, but not for the benefits or anything else that they were due. So it was, that was in the news, and when I was writing this, it's like, So the last verse is for them.
Yeah, the last verse actually changed because of them.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool.
So now you're involved with the musicians union as well.
We are. We're members of Local 1000, which is the traveling musicians local, which is kind of strange.
Or as they refer to it as the non-geographic local.
Because we have almost 500 members scattered all across the U.S. and Canada. And it's the singer-songwriter, troubadour types. Not everybody's a singer-songwriter, but
a lot of them are.
A lot are, and people who are out performing and traveling. And normally the musicians locals are, like there's one in Boston, there'll be one in Philadelphia and so forth. And they typically,
and it's usually the symphony orchestras or
and some
or
of the
things like
bands
that.
and
Yeah.
stuff. But the challenge for the traveling musicians was there was no geographic place where they belonged, because they could belong to the one where their home was, except they were never home, so that didn't make any sense.
Right.
And if you were to want to get involved in some of the other groups, you actually had to join them. So you would, if you were traveling to New York, you would have to join the union in New York and pay the dues for New York.
It didn't make any sense because you were going to be in town for a night or two. So Pete Seeger and John O'Connor and Charlie King and a few other folks put together Local 1000 and created a home for those of us who travel the country.
And the American Federation of Musicians was totally on board with that, which is bravo to them for that.
Yep. So there's a variety of benefits. We get our musical instrument insurance through them, and we get some. There is a pension available through them, which all the pensions have some issues at the moment, but and there's various other benefits. And the biggest thing for us is just camaraderie with the fellow members of the union, and that's been of great use when we're out on the road, meeting up with other members. We were coming through Wichita, Kansas. We parked in Aaron Fowler's backyard. Stayed with him for a few days. He had helped us find a gig in town that turned out to be a great gig, and it's fun, and we get a lot out of the union. We get to learn a lot from the elders who have lots of wisdom to share with us. We actually have our union hall meetings via Zoom, video conferencing.
Okay.
Because we are non-geographic, we have a non-geographic union hall.
So we get online and we can chat with people who are all over the country and get to know them. And actually, one of the folks who's out in New Mexico, we finally got to meet in person at NERFA.
Gary Paul was at NERFA?
He was at NERFA, but he's normally in Santa Fe. And we've chatted with him online many times, and it was really nice to catch up in person. So.
And put an actual body to the face.
So what do you have to do to join the union, and why would I want to?
Well, for Local 1000, you would need to be a traveling songwriter or traveling troubadour of some flavor. Not, as I said, not everybody's a songwriter. Thinking of Deb Cowan, who sings old songs and travels around doing that and does really well. But local1000.org has lots of information on it about that and what that is all about. But if you're based in a single geography, you can go to the American Federation of Musicians website, and the list of locals are there. One of the things, if we play a gig, for example, Winnebago has hired us for some bigger events, and we send them a contract. Well, it's a union contract, and the contract is between the person hiring us, like Winnebago in this case, and the union. We act as the agent for the union. The idea here is if somebody doesn't pay you for a gig, it's not you that they broke a contract with, it's the union. And the American Federation of Musicians has lawyers, and they will go and collect that money.
Yeah. And for the most part,
we have not had trouble with that. But
it's rare that the folkies get stiffed. So,
right.
But there are other folks. But for us,
if you're playing a library, they're unlikely to stiff you.
Yeah, exactly. But for us, the major benefits that we get out of it, certainly the instrument insurance is very well done.
Yeah, and we also there are union scale minimums, so it's like you're expected to. If you're playing as a duo, for example, there's a certain rate that's the minimum amount that you should be paid per hour of music or whatever. And that has actually been beneficial to us because when we go to talk to a company like a Winnebago and they say, well, we have limited budget, what do you need? And it's like, well, here's scale, and you can that's your minimum. And they took that and they said, okay, so we understand where we need to be, and they gave us a nice amount above that. But but it helps because it creates a starting point for that conversation.
Yeah, and the little tiny venues and the the little coffee houses and the libraries around the country, they're not going to be able to hit that, and that's okay. And
some
we
do,
get that.
Some can,
some can't, and we're good with that.
And our local also has originated something called Fair Trade Music, which is for house concerts and smaller venues, guaranteeing the artist at least scale. And if it's a light audience, the host of a house concert will throw in a few dollars to fill the gap or whatever, just so the musicians know that they have some amount, that they can count on getting at least scale, which is usually at least enough to drive to the next place. Yeah. So one of the things about the traveling musicians is typically your next gig is 100 or 200 miles from the past one, and so this one of the sayings sometimes is, we drive for a living, we play music for free. Yeah.
And one of the other things that it offers, and it's more of a benefit for the Canadian members than it is for the U.S. members, but it's also handy for the U.S. members, is dealing with the paperwork if you want to go play in the other country. For us, it's making sure that you've got all of the appropriate paperwork lined up and have the appropriate letters that you need to be able to show at
and
the
the
border.
Canadian office of the union will provide us with a letter. So show that at the border. They say, okay, great, you're going off to play a coffee house in a church basement. We don't mind. Yeah.
For the Canadian members, it's a huge benefit because the U.S. puts so many hurdles in front of Canadian music or any musicians outside of the U.S. coming to play in this country, and they have to have a specific visa. They have to have contracts laid out in advance, and it's insane. And it's expensive.
The fee for last I knew it was about $500, and it's good for 6 months. You better have a whole lot of gigs lined up
to pay for that $500.
If you're a big rock musician coming in to play a stadium or something, the one gig would be fine for that $500. But for a folkie, that doesn't work.
Yeah. So
anyway, so the union provides a variety of benefits for especially for the traveling musicians. But if you're, as I said, if you're within a local area, the contracts can help. If you're playing bars and a bar owner decides not to pay you, there's recourse.
Right. So hopefully some people listening will hear this and maybe look into it.
And if folks are interested, check out local1000.org.
And I think the parent is afm.org.
I believe so.
So.
And it's local1000.org.
Okay. So, we're getting toward the end.
Okay.
I think we should have another song at least.
We could do that.
I'm going to suggest Road Less Traveled.
Yeah, that would be good.
That'll give your brain a break.
That would be good, yeah.
Oh.
You need to swap.
Oh. Yep.
It's one thing I tend to do pretty much on every song is swap instruments. So if you hear me rustling in the background, it's setting one instrument down and getting another. We used to try to set our set lists based on having me on one instrument for a whole block of songs, and we discovered that made for very boring set lists.
Yeah, where's your roadie? You gotta have the stage manager or the roadie just grabbing your stuff for
Yeah,
you.
you're looking at her.
Yeah.
I am my own roadie.
So Faith's picking up a ukulele.
Yep, and this is a plastic ukulele made from the Outdoor Ukulele Company of Bend, Oregon.
Are you plugging this in?
I am plugging this in. If I can find it. There's the cable. Stuck it in my back pocket. Yeah, all of the instruments that we tend to take on the road with us plug in. And my newest find, which is a Warren May dulcimer that we picked up down in Berea, Kentucky. That does not have a pickup in it. May never have a pickup in it.
We'll see.
But it's a pretty thing.
All right.
Anyway, this one's sort of become our theme song out on the road.
Okay.
Riding down the highway with 1,000 other cars, traveling a route that everybody runs. I'm tired of watching brake lights, the bumper up ahead. I'm looking for a road less traveled. Everybody says you gotta get there faster. Doesn't matter who you run off the road. Don't care about destination, the journey is the key. I'm looking for a road less traveled. Take it easy on the road less traveled. Take it nice and slow. No competition, no fighting for position. It's the better way to go. Take me to the back roads, find a slower life. Trade exhaust fumes for fresher air. I've broken down far too many times in my life. I'm looking for a road less traveled. Take it easy on the road less traveled. Take it nice and slow. No competition, no fighting for position. It's a better way to go. Anywhere it takes me, big city or the desert, as long as it's quiet and I'm mostly on my own. Even if it finally leads me back to the highway, I'm looking for a road less traveled. Take it easy on the road less traveled. Take it nice and slow. No competition, no fighting for position. It's the better way to go. Already too much traffic in my life. Too many lanes, too many choices. I need another path, even if it leads me nowhere. I'm looking for a road less traveled. Take it easy on the road less traveled. Take it nice and slow. No competition, no fighting for position. It's a better way to go. It's the better way to go.
So it's been great talking with you guys. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
And I always ask toward the end of the show what advice you have for other musicians, and you've given some already. But is there anything else you'd like to add?
Follow your dreams. Don't wait. One of the songs on the new album mentions the names of several of our musician friends and other friends who passed away way too young before they got to follow their dreams. So if you decide you want to be doing the music, if you want to be out there, find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And my bit of advice is you're never too old. We got started on this in our early 40s. We were talking with a gal at the open mic on Saturday night who started in her 50s.
Peg
Espinola started songwriting in her 70s, and she now has, 5 or 6 albums?
Yeah, she has a lot.
I love Peg.
Peg is a prolific writer.
Yeah.
And it's never too late, but also don't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get her on the podcast. But,
that would be awesome if
she
you
could. I think she said that, it's hard for her to get up here. So
it is.
You might have to go to her place.
Maybe we will. Maybe I will.
Yeah, you should. And because we love Peg. She's a hoot.
Yeah. So this has been great, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon. So Dan and Faith have a website, danandfaith.com.
We do. And you can also find us, and we try to make it very easy to find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
It's facebook.com/danandfaith, twitter.com/danandfaith,
reverbnation.com/danandfaith, and it's always DANANDFAITH because you can't use ampersands in those places.
Yeah.
All right. So
look us up, and we do have a brand new album, called Then and Now, and we'd love to share it with the world.
And when are you performing next that people could hear you?
We will be playing online Thursday night this week, 8 o'clock on Facebook, on our Facebook page.
Yeah, facebook.com/.
We've been having fun doing Facebook Live things every month or every other month.
Yep.
And then we have a bit of a break for Thanksgiving, and then we'll be back at Serendipity in the second Wednesday of the month in December.
With Dan Tappan and Beth DeSambri, and
Yep.
our theme for that night is Claire is Leaving.
Okay.
And we get to figure out what that means.
Yes.
Apparently there's a story, but the person who put it in promised they wouldn't tell us what the story was until after we performed the songs.
Can you change it to Eclair is Leaving? Or
you can change to anything you want, really.
Our feeling is, as long as you're inspired by the prompt, what you do with it is entirely up to you.
Right.
So
we've been speaking with Dan and Faith, and we will be back on Thursday. And let me check who's playing this Thursday on the podcast. This Thursday, see, here's why I should have this in front of me before I start talking. This Thursday, we have John Waterman. He is going to be doing.
I know.
Yeah, he was great. He's interesting. He's got a lot of history songs.
He does, and a brilliant performer and songwriter, and we miss seeing him. We haven't seen him in forever.
Well, tune into the podcast.
Absolutely,
that'll be up online at 7 p.m. on the 21st, and on Thursday night. And everybody, other than that, should have a great week. And I did want to mention the Hearing Room. It's $100 a year to become a member. That helps support us, and you should come down and spend all your time here.
Absolutely. It is the coolest place. We love this. The vibe here is something really special.
Yeah, the Hearing Room in Lowell, Massachusetts. Yep. Best vibe in Lowell.
119 Chelmsford Street.
That's right.
Yep.
And also, I want to thank the Greenville Junction Shop. That's Greenville, Junktion, Shoppy, SHOPPE. So the Greenville Junction Shop is a place you can visit on Facebook. And other than that, have a great week.
If you start with a dream and share it with some friends, the idea deepens and grows. The dream takes shape, it has form and substance, and community soon yourself.